Vicky Nasrasi,
Present.
Drew Buchanan,
Present.
Miles Fettinger. Present. There we go. Pete Saunders, present. So, did anybody have a chance to read through the minutes of the last?
I did. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
No, you're good.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. So, today we have an application from, where are we? Petition to rezone. So, Illinois Indiana Development Company. Do we have a petitioner here?
So, the city has applied as the petitioner on behalf of Illinois Indiana Development Company for this. Basically, we're doing what we can to be supportive of the entity that owns the property for the purpose of being able to expand on economic development opportunities for this property. There have been some cases in the past where there's been interest expressed for a need for a higher level of zoning for this property to kind of accommodate the rail-related uses that would be locating on this property, and that's fitting for both the location and proximity to the toll road as well as the State Road 39 corridor and the rail, the rail access to the property. So it's a perfect location for this type of zoning. And if you look at the countywide land development plan, it conforms with that in terms of the kind of the same statements I just made for goals that are in that document. So we think that it's going to provide the best opportunity for the development of that property going forward, and it's a pretty high profile, large important property in that corridor. So Tony Kazachevich, I almost got it.
Yeah. Easy for you to say.
Is here from South Shore Freight, Indiana, Illinois, our Illinois Indiana Development Company, for any questions you have as well. So,
Okay, thank you. Do we have a map here? There we go. You had a chance to see the property concerned, okay. All right, well, thank you at this point. So we should open this up now to the public. Thank you. Does anybody have any comment, questions? If so, please come forward. Please come forward. Can you give us your name and address?
My name is Jose Rosario. I'm at 3643 North State Road, 39. My property is right across that map you see there. It's right across the proposed variance change. And the first thing I want to know is, who is the Illinois Indiana Development Company? The materials I got had no information about that.
Mm-hmm.
we'll answer that.
Sure.
Okay.
After you're done, we'll answer that after you're done.
Yeah, I would like to know who that is. I'd also would like to know specifically what they're proposing to do. We're particularly concerned about screening. A property is going to be right in front. We have the 5 acres right there, and I'm concerned whether they're going to have access to this. Yeah, that's the property right there. How are you going to access the property? Are you using current access points? And where are those access points? So, I mean, I would have other questions if I had more information.
Sure.
I didn't, that form that they completed was very, very cryptic. Very little there.
Okay, I didn't see the form. So maybe at this point, could you address the questions that Jen was asking? If you want to sit down the front, then you'll have a chance to speak again if you want.
I want to address what the entity is.
So, IIDC, Illinois Indiana Development Corporation, is a subsidiary of Anacostia Rail Holdings, which is the company that owns the freight rights for the South Shore Railroad. So it's a subsidiary of a parent company that also owns the railroad. So when we talk about IIDC property, there are the actual rail from Michigan City down to Kingsbury is owned by IIDC as a subsidiary of Anacostia Rail. So it's just corporate development or corporate holdings. As far as what we're doing there, we do not have an impending customer for that property. We were looking at, and we kind of said it at the beginning, we're looking at the zone change as a tool to get somebody to get onto that property. Rail is focused on heavier industry companies. Being M2 is just one step closer to getting a new customer on that piece of property.
But you currently service other businesses there with spurs.
Correct. So just south of there, we serve Hickman Williams. Just south of that, we serve Ameribulk and I can't think of their name right now, but the Rock Transload. So yeah, we have customers going all the way down
Right.
the line.
Right, so this is kind of an extension of more of the,
Yeah, I mean, if somebody were to move in there, yes, it's just one more customer on the line.
Yeah.
It's not like, we're building a whole new railroad to get down.
right.
And then just to address the concern about the screening, yes, any use that would go in the M2 district would be required to provide the highest level of screening between the manufacturing zoning, or the industrial zoning, and the adjacent residential to the southeast, and then a slightly less intense landscaping screening for the properties that are zone B3 across the street. But there would be a significant amount of screening required for any use on that property, according to the zoning ordinance. Off the top of my head, I don't have that right in front of me right now, because there's a schedule of screening requirements in the zoning ordinance that based on M2 to B3 or M2 to R3. R3? R2?
It's from industrial to residential, so
there's different requirements in terms of the actual planning materials and width of the buffer that's required. But because M2 is the highest category of use that the zoning ordinance has, it also carries with it the highest level of screening requirements in the ordinance.
And feasibility studies. Environmental protection.
Depending on what the use is, there are some standards in the zoning ordinance that require environmental restrictions to be considered. And that would all be handled through the site review process, where whatever's proposed on the property would come in. They would be notified as to what those standards are based on the zoning ordinance at the time. And if there's anything that would require further approvals that need to come before either this body or the Board of Zoning Appeals, then there would be additional public hearings if that were necessary based on that use. So so I've addressed that.
Yep, thank you.
So we're not doing it back and forth, because
Yeah, no.
you asked your questions and I've answered them, so there's not a real back and forth here.
No,
so,
I get it.
yeah.
Yes, you can. Yeah, if you come up, you can ask another question.
So, my understanding is then that Illinois Indiana Development Corporation is a subsidiary. Doesn't own that land. Does it owns that land?
They do.
Okay, they own that land.
They own that land.
And they're looking to change it, they're looking for a variance so they could attract heavy industry.
Right, a rezoning.
I see. But yet the company doesn't have any plans yet as to what's gonna happen there.
Not exactly, but its location, I'll come back up. Actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this.
Well, anyway, those are the kinds of things I'd like to know.
Okay.
I think those are valid questions. I think in terms of the planning and zoning maps, it is kind of common for, to change a zone, based on what is around it and what's developed, with the intent to try to get industry there. If it's not zoned, if it's not passed for that, they can't even advertise to get a certain type of industry there. So this is kind of the preliminary first step. If, when they get some possible candidates, then it goes through the next vetting process, and if they would have to go outside of their zone or whatever, it would have to go through those channels for a zoning appeal or something like that. So this is,
Has the city itself raised any questions about whether or not there should be a variance there?
the city's the applicant.
The city is the applicant. Okay, I'm just trying to understand the process.
The city is the applicant because they see a lot of potential for industry there, and this is kind of a precursor to what you have to do to even be able to advertise or get.
All right, maybe I should talk to the mayor. He never told me when he was asking for my vote for that. He never told me there was gonna be a change in variance there, right across my
But,
property.
yeah, it's not a change in variance, it's an update to the zoning map.
It's an update. What's the difference between,
The difference between a variance
yeah,
and a change in zone is that a change in zone is a little bit more comprehensive. A variance could be, could permit a specific type of development on M1 that didn't comply with M1, but this zone map change is changing it from N1 to M2, which the zoning ordinance, which is available online, has different specifications for the types of structures, the size, the scope, all that sort of thing, and including the screening, is different. So instead of doing a variance, they're requesting a zone map change because they don't have a particular use in mind as of right now. So they're looking to market the property under the more permissive zoning of M2.
so what would be the sorts of things that the planning commission would have to look at in order to allow the city to do that?
The plan commission compares the proposal for the zone map change against the comprehensive plan for the city, and they look at the most desirable use of the land and,
The area around it.
conservation of property values in the area and responsible development and growth.
Okay, what is the comprehensive plan? Do we have a comprehensive
We
plan
have
that
a
I could look at?
comprehensive plan, yes.
Yeah, maybe I should have looked at that prior to the annexation, which we were not informed about. But that's another question, that's another issue, which I will take up with the mayor next time I see him. But anyway, where are you? Well, there you are. Was that something you brought up?
I think, this is a,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're getting a little off
Ca-
topic now.
I'm sorry if I'm
It's okay.
interfering with the.
Do you have any further
with the
questions
protocol,
for the
but,
applicant or the board?
But I thought it was a hearing, so you're hearing me. And I'm glad that you are trying to answer my questions, and I appreciate that. And I'm not here to violate your protocol or anything of that sort. But I have a lot of questions about this that I have not been answered. And in fairness, the notice we got has nothing in it. How am I then supposed to raise some questions? Let's be fair about this. I cannot ask the right questions unless I have the right information in front of me.
I mean, I saw the notice and it says what's happening. It's being changed from, the one zone.
M1.
But what about
Designation
that
to the other.
cryptic form there about, anyway, look, as I understand it, it's the first step, and I'm sure as this develops, I'll have some more questions. I'm very, very curious about what the planning commission then is gonna decide this. And what would be the next step? before the planning commission actually allows the city to do this. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
Good evening to the Plan Commission. Bert Cook, Executive Director of the LaPorte Economic Advancement Partnership. Maybe just take a minute. I think, you having been through a lot of these different discussions, sometimes I think the perception is that something is being withheld from individuals. And I just want to be clear that the scenario that's in front of you, Drew, you mentioned it, I think, very succinctly. We've worked with the Chicago South Shore for a long time. They're a huge partner of ours in the Thomas Rose Industrial Park on the 39 North area, and they serve many customers throughout our community. We work together to figure out how we can best represent properties, best locate companies that fit within certain areas. Because this particular property is a very small change, it's already zoned industrial, and you're going to a different industrial zoning, it sometimes makes it a little more difficult to understand. I think it might be clearer, and it's not, but if this was zoned residential and we were asking to go to industrial zoning or the other way around, I think people would generally have a better understanding of you're seeing this dramatic change that's going on and the factors that the Plan Commission would then look at when deciding whether or not that would be appropriate. I've been in this job for 17, almost 18 years. At different points, we've represented this particular property within the county in past years, and we've always struggled to find the right fit for the land because the major advantage is it's located very close to an interstate. It's also served by rail. And so the right company is going to likely utilize that rail service. The probability tells us that an M2 zoning is going to be more appropriate for that type of company. That doesn't mean that's going to end up there. They, as Tony referenced, they don't have a potential buyer or a tenant right now as we sit here today. It very well could end up with a tenant who fits in the M1, the current zoning. That's a very strong likelihood, but it's our job to give us the best opportunity to be successful and prepare these things in advance so that we can approach the market, all of those potential companies that might locate here, and show that we're ready for development. I can tell you from experience, not having the appropriate zoning is literally one of the first things that companies look at. Why would they choose to locate in LaPorte when they can go to Chesterton or they can go to Valparaiso or any other community that has property that is zoned appropriately and they don't have to go through all of these other steps? So I think the questions are all very fair. I think the answers that you're giving are the exact correct answers. It's just, maybe there's a misunderstanding about what's happening and why that's happening. But I can tell you without a doubt there is not a company that is currently planning to locate there. And any company who ultimately would either purchase or lease that land is going to go through the typical process that the city has, which begins with site review, where all or many of the issues that were referenced, whether that's screening or utilities, access, ingress, egress, all of that is part of the process any company would follow. And whoever ultimately buys this property will follow those same processes. So I appreciate the questions. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking those questions, but I want to be clear, from a action standpoint, this is pretty simple what we're doing, and it does not represent a really significant change on the land. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Do we have any further questions from the floor? Anybody want to make any comment? Then we'll close that part of the meeting. Perhaps now we could do the staff presentation, David?
Yeah, so I can just give a quick brief overview since
Please.
Craig has mentioned a lot of the issues related to the county-wide land development plan, which just going through some of the goals of the plan itself, just to give a little bit of background, is to encourage the expansion of manufacturing uses in planned urban expansion areas because of the proximity to major highways and public utility services. With I-80-90, the rail there, and State Road 39 are both qualified as those major highway access points. In the South Shore Freight Railroad, there is, as was alluded to, with the buffer transitions that would be dealt with on a case-by-case basis with additional site development process. beyond the zoning is the buffers between industrial and commercial land. It would be the same, and it just states industrial to the zoning district that the adjacent land is within. It doesn't specify between zoning districts. Just to kind of give a little bit of background to that. The proposed zoning change will be compatible with current adjacent variety of industrial and railroad-focused land uses along the west side of State Road 39, as well as the adjacent commercial property to the south and to the east itself. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning from M1 Light Industrial District to the M2 Heavy Industrial District is compatible with the countywide land development plan. Staff recommends approval of rezoning request from M1 Light Industrial District to the M2 Heavy Industrial District as described in the attached legal description for the 4 parcels of land. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the board? Okay, then we will put it to a vote. Does anybody have a motion they would like to?
I'll make a motion to approve the zone map change.
I'll second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed. And that, I think, brings that to a close. Any other points? Any other business?
Nope.
Do you want to have a motion to close? I think there was only, that must have been last one.
So, yeah, I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay.